Hey, legend. Today we have Evan Carmichael on the line. What an amazing conversation this was. This guy, if you've been lurking around on YouTube for any period of time, you've probably seen his videos, but he has almost 4 million subscribers on YouTube. He's been on there for quite a while. Forbes named him one of the world's top 40 social marketing talents, and Inc. named him one of the top 100 great leadership speakers. So this guy speaks globally on leadership, and he's got this incredible YouTube channel. He's got multiple businesses. He has the largest salsa club in all of Canada. So multifaceted man, but we only had 20 minutes since his schedule was so jam-packed. But this is one of the best conversations that I've had since starting the podcast. And we talk about one of the main things is when he broke his neck and he continued to do his speaking tour that he was on, that he started because he wanted to overcome his fear of public speaking. And he literally broke his neck and continued to do the speaking tour. And we really get into resistance and also overcoming challenges and how to build world-class discipline. He has a large packet of Doritos, which is his favorite thing to eat in the world. He has a large packet of Doritos literally sitting behind his desk so he can constantly know that he's tougher and better than the temptation of the Doritos. So amazing 25-minute interview. This guy really rocked my world and you're absolutely love it. This is like a punch to the face. You're gonna walk away feeling inspired and motivated to go and make some great changes in your life. Hope you enjoyed. Rock and roll. Welcome, Evan. Thanks for jumping on, man. Really excited.
Thanks for having me, Josh. Great to be here, man.
Good stuff, man. I originally came across you with your Grant Cardone compilations. Big Grant Cardone fan. That's how I got into sales in the first place. And I've watched a lot of your content in that regard, man.
Cool. Yeah, Grant and I are at the same agency. And when I was getting started, I was the black sheep of the agency where the agent said I wasn't good enough to be there, basically, but he loved my believe message and he took a flyer on me. And I said, I'm going to show you, Steve, who's the number one guy at the agency on YouTube. And he said, Grant Cardone. It's like, okay, I'm going to beat Grant. I'm going to pass him on YouTube. It's going to happen. And we eventually did. No, Grant's great. He's been a friend of the channel for years. And that's cool that he inspired you too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you. So I'd love to start off. One of my favorite things about you or your story is that you have this massive pack of Dorito chips in front of you to make sure that the Doritos know.
Can you see it in the shot or no?
I can. Let's go widescreen. I can see them. There they are.
Okay, good.
Looking hot. So would you be able to tell us a little bit more about why you have that packet of chips there?
Yeah, so this is a giant bag. It looks small when it's kind of behind me. But it's a pretty big bag of Doritos. And people ask me all the time, hey, could you not get a healthier sponsor for your video? Like Doritos is a pretty crappy company. And if they knew why I had them up, they would never want to sponsor my videos. So I have a strategy called Damn the Doritos. And I think when you're on a diet, that the typical advice people give you is get rid of all the junk food from your house. And I think that may be a good start, but I think it's a crutch. Because ultimately, at least for me, this may not be prescriptive advice, but for me, I want to make decisions that make me feel better about myself. And the idea that I would need to get something out of my environment so that I don't succumb to it makes me feel worse about myself. Because what ends up happening is you go on vacation, you go hit a cruise ship, office party, whatever, you're just downing all of the food. So I'm teaching myself that I can only win inside of a perfect little environment, which I didn't like. So my vice is Doritos. I want to eat this right now. My mouth is watering looking at this bag. I haven't had my meal yet. And I just want to eat this whole thing. But I'm not going to, because every time I look at it, I pat myself on the back mentally of like, damn the Doritos, that I am stronger than a Doritos. And we all have a Doritos in our life, whether it's actually Doritos or sugar or some habit or something that distracts us. We all have these things that every time I look at it, though, it now makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing. I'm building the person that I'm proud of myself. So when I look back on my life, like, yes, I'm proud that I make those difficult choices. So damn the Doritos. That's why they're here.
Love it, man. And when did you originally start that? Like, how long ago was that you put in that?
Oh, man, I don't know. It's been a while.
Been a while?
You know what? You can probably go back on my channel and just look in the background and just see when did I introduce that. But it's been a while. I'm not great at looking backwards historically, but it's definitely been a while. I think it started with because somebody told me, get this out of your environment. And there's a bunch of those little things that just bother me, right? It's like if you're going to wake up you have to wake up, don't put the alarm next to you, put it in the kitchen so that it forces you to get out of bed, right? Like that. Me, how I interpret that is it means that I'm not capable of just getting up, that I have to put the alarm in the kitchen and that's the thing that's going to get me up. Or don't tell yourself you're nervous. Tell yourself you're excited. Right? Like when you're scared to do something. No, like I'm scared. And I do scary things. Because the way I interpret that is me telling myself, I don't do scary things. So I have to trick myself to say I'm excited to get off and do it. Like, no, I do scary things. At least that's who I want to be. The Evan who I want to be is the guy who does the scary, difficult, hard things. So anytime I find one of those things, one of those triggers, the hardest part is most of these are subconscious. You don't even recognize that you're thinking this way and feeling this way. So anytime I can catch one, whether it's my own self-awareness, somebody else points something out, I watch a video and it inspires me, I try to then make that change in the life so that future Evan is looking back and he's proud.
Could you share some of the scariest things that you've done, that you've used that technique to get through?
I mean, I don't know if you see can you see the neck brace behind me here? Not sure what's like caught up in the...
I can just see it, yeah.
So I wore this for 60 days. I was in the middle of a tour. So I did a 23 city tour for 90 days. And
wow.
That was to overcome my fear of speaking. It's like, okay, I'm afraid of this. So every 4 days, I'm going to speak again in a new city. Every 4 days, a new city. Just keep doing it until it's not a fear anymore. And 2/3 of the way through, I pulled into Denver on my wife's birthday, and I fainted and I broke my neck. And happy birthday to Nina.
You just randomly fainted, or?
Well, I was reading some biohacking stuff. I love biohacking, but I also get pretty queasy. And so I was reading it and feeling queasy. So I just kept going, and then I just passed out, which I'd never done. So yeah, it's not some great story of how I saved somebody's life. And I was sitting down, I fainted, fell out of my chair, and hit my forehead on the wall, and then cracked my neck against the baseboard, and it cracked my neck in 2 spots. So I broke my neck in 2 spots. And it's just some freak. They did at the bone density. It's like, you're not supposed to break your neck just falling out of a chair. It's usually like high impact, like a car accident or something, but just a freak accident. And anyway, so I broke my neck, and everybody said, go home. Okay, it's time to go home. But I couldn't fly because the pressure that the airplane creates, you can't fly with a broken neck. And the doctor said I had a 50% chance of spinal surgery, which was scary, thinking about spinal surgery. But I said, I'm going to keep going. I want to keep going. I want to at least try. Like, why is the answer just to stop without even trying? So I said, my stop was in Denver, and I had to cancel it because I was in the hospital. But I said, okay, tomorrow we'll refund everybody the money that they paid, and just like have them all come over to where we're at, and I'll just do it lying down. And the doctor's like, dude, you have he didn't say dude, but he said, you have a concussion. You cannot do this. Like, okay, fine. So we just completely canceled and refunded. Everybody understood. Obviously, I mean, I'm in the hospital, broken neck, concussion. But my favorite part was in Kansas City. That was our next stop. So instead of just going home, let's just try. Let me try Kansas City. I don't want to just default to giving up. And so I was wearing this, and I didn't know if I'd be able to make it or not. So we refunded everybody who showed up to Kansas City. And then we messaged him and say, hey, we already booked a hotel room, like the venue. We can't get that money back. I'm coming to Kansas City anyway. So how about you just come for free, and we'll jam, and it'll go as long as I can go. So it wasn't the usual 4 hours, about 4 hours, 3-4 hours on my sessions. And so we get there, and my wife, Nina, is like not happy. She doesn't want me doing this. And she's eyeing me. It's like the deal was I would go if she had control to pull me off, because I would never pull myself. I would faint again, right? I would just go until I passed out. So the deal was I would go until she said no. And I ended up going an hour and a half, and I knew that she was paying attention to how dry my lips were getting. So I probably should have quit about 45 minutes in, but I kept licking my lips just to make sure that they were moist so that she wouldn't pull me off. But an hour and a half in, she said, okay, we have to stop this now. Evan's like, I was starting to slur my answers, and it wasn't great. But it's like, I've never been pulled off of, like, I was at my physical max. That was it. And a lot of times when we hit, when we say no, we're not actually at our max. You could go probably a lot more if you just went through it, if you just told yourself that you can. And so that was probably my worst speech of the whole tour, but it was my favorite because it's like I had actually nothing left. I had to be pulled off a stage and say goodbye to everybody. And then I had to wear this for the next whatever that was, 56 days. But I'm proud that I did it. Like, it wasn't my best speech, and every session got a little bit better as doing a presentation with a concussion is pretty rough. I'd never had a concussion in my life before, but I'm really proud of myself that I did it. And so this is another reminder. Like, I look at this on my wall, I'm like, I did that. Like, I can't believe I did that. It's a reminder that we're strong and that you're capable. So that was probably one of the hardest things that I ever had to do. This was way harder than the bag of Doritos.
That is unbelievable. That is an unbelievable story. I was like, wow, man. Wow. Where do you think that came from? Do you feel like there were key moments where you had to develop it, or do you think you got a bit from your parents? Like, where do you think that, leaving it all on the table mentality came from?
I'm sure a lot of it comes from my parents. They would always teach me that I'm Evan Castrilli Carmichael. I could do anything and believe that I can. And growing up, I never got the A's that my sister, I would be like B, C student. I wouldn't be an F student failing, but like B and C. And my sisters, I'm in the middle, older, younger sister. They always got straight A's, and I'd always have to have the talk every report card season. And they always just made me feel like it was possible. And so they taught me a lot about just being a human and believing in yourself. But I think honestly, this happened. This was what, 4 years ago. So it's a lot. I'm not talking to my mom every day, looking at report cards anymore. But honestly, I think it's the videos that I watch. It's like you said, you were inspired by Grant Cardone and the video compilations that I made on him, and I'm sure other stuff that he's created, and all sorts of other people. And whether you ever meet Grant Cardone or not, he's changed your life. And that's what I've been pouring into myself every day for the past however many years. When did I start on YouTube? 2009? So it's been a while. And I make the content for me because I want Grant in my ear and Steve Jobs in my ear and all these people who've done amazing things. And when you're around it every day, then all of a sudden, like, this is no big deal compared to what all these other people have done. And so it makes you feel like it's possible. And that all of those successful people that are profiled on the channel, their first answer is not just, okay, I guess we quit. It's like, no, we'll find another way, or at least let me try to find another way. And so the more you have that being poured into you from entrepreneurs, from athletes, from musicians, the people who have accomplished, then it just makes you start to shift your perspective and mindset. The people you've had on your show and this show, this podcast, it's always encouraging people. It's always hopeful. It's always giving people optimism, and that they don't have to stay where they are right now. They're not happy where they've accomplished a lot to be here. That's why they listen to Josh. But you don't have to stay there. You could be way further. You could be out here, and you're bringing on guests to kind of help make that path happen. And so the more you feed your mind with it, the more you start to become it and think that way. Because chances are the people listening to this show, your audience, they're already the most ambitious people that they know. Like, you're the one pouring into other people. You're the one for your community, encouraging other people, saying you should do this. Go and, like, you're the one from your high school who's already accomplished the most, probably. And that's great. Like, continue to pour into other people. But who pours into you? And the more successful you become, the fewer there are who can pour into you. And so that's not to say don't go off and get mentors and join groups and connect with people. It's super important. But you can get a lot from virtual mentors. So you can learn a lot from guys like Grant and Steve Jobs and whoever your heroes are, even if you never meet them. And it forces you to become a better version of you. So totally. I think that's what ended up helping me at least just not quit on that one day.
Yeah. Can I share a little anecdotal story?
Yeah.
So I went to the first sales job I got, like, properly just focused on sales, was in Vancouver, Canada. And I was selling TELUS. So I was selling TELUS door to door in December. And I'd never been, like, I didn't even know what the hell TELUS was. And so I'm in Vancouver in December. It's raining, and it's like dark. You're in Toronto. It's dark at 3:30 p.m. in December, like 4 p.m. And I had to drop everyone off in this van. And like my first week into it was in a sales competition where they fly all these people into Vancouver from across, BC and Alberta. And then you just go carnage and just chaos. And so I didn't even know the difference between TELUS and Shaw and like all this sort of stuff. It's pouring rain. I'm like the unprepared Australian. I have no wet weather gear. I'm saturated, like freezing cold. I've dropped everyone off, but I had the van. And so I would go back, I'd do a loop, and I literally had like a paper knock sheet. So it's like saturated from the rain. And I'd go back and I had this video from Grant Cardone. And it's like, it was like maybe like 70 seconds, and it's just called Persist. I still have it saved on my Instagram. And he just talks about persisting. And I would go and I'd like knock doors, somehow made a sale or two. And our team actually won the competition somehow. And I remember just going back to the van and just being so cold. I'd pull out my phone and just watch, and he's just talking about persist, just like you have to persist. And it's, you know, and I kept going and I just didn't stop. And all I wanted to do was stop. And it's wild how, like what you're saying, it's like you can really get the support that you maybe don't have in your life. Like I was in a completely different country. I knew nobody, I had nobody to call and talk to and get that sort of support that would have said, come on, man, keep going. And it came from my phone and, you know, a 75-second Instagram video.
Yeah. Like, and the great news is now that's always accessible. You know, like everybody has the internet. It's great. Yeah, those videos, like you can choose what you feed into your brain every day. So whether they're YouTube videos, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you consume every day, is it making you better? Are you learning? Are you improving? Do you feel, you know, you're sitting there watching this Instagram video and you've made an improvement to your life? How often are we looking at Instagram and we feel worse about ourselves? Or you just spent 2 hours going down some rabbit hole. It's like, what did I just do for the last 2 hours, right? And it's all about who you follow. It's all about what you allow to be fed into your mind. If you allow a lot of negativity or stupidity or opinions of other people into your mind and cloud your judgment, then that's what you become. But if you carefully choose what gets added to your feed, the people who make you feel better about yourself, you'll be a completely different person 1 year from today.
If you could teach this generation, like that guy we talked about in their 30s, maybe just hitting 30, and if you could impart on them a skill or a belief or something like that, what would you want them to learn and to carry with them for the coming 10 years?
Well, first is the recognition that whatever you grew up doing, whatever your parents did, whatever you went to school for, is probably not the thing that you're going to be greatest in the world at. So, you know, me, I'm here making YouTube videos. It's not something my parents did. And understand that your parents are pilgrims, right? I mean, your parents probably love you. Probably. There's a good chance they love you. But if you're 29 years old, if you think about when your parents were 29 years old, the opportunities available to them at 29 versus you at 29 is completely different. Your parents at 29 years old did not have options. They had to go get a job. Like they had to be crazy. If you were an entrepreneur when your parents were 29 years old, they had to kind of be unemployable. Now it's possible. And so a lot of time we perceive the lack of love or lack of support as like, why don't you encourage me? Why don't you believe in me? Why don't you help me on my path and my dreams? They come from a different world. It's not that they don't love you. They just don't understand because they're from a completely different generation. Totally. And so it becomes on you to say, I'm going to go and live my life now. And I remember when I was in my 20s, I was with a family member in Italy. I'm half Italian. And one of the most successful people kind of in his community in Italy. And he said, you know, in your 20s, you're kind of figuring out who you need to be. You're saying yes to a bunch of things. You're playing around. You don't have to take life too seriously. But in your 30s, now's the time to focus. Now's the time to learn to be a man, you know? And I guess it stuck for whatever reason, because I'm telling you now here on your show. I don't think I've ever told that story before. And so it's like, it's okay to play around. It's okay to pursue your interests, but now it's time to take it serious. It doesn't mean that you stay with one thing forever, but it's time to break out of the shell. It's time to shed the skin of what your family expects you to do, your friends expect you to do, your community expects you to do. Go be the Australian who goes to Vancouver and sells TELUS packages, right? It's like there's no more reason to blame the people around you and your circumstances and your upbringing anymore. You know, like when you're 7 years old, you don't have a choice. You're doing what your parents tell you. But when you're 29 years old, like now it's time. So there's no more reason why you can't go chase down the life that you want. And it's never been easier and never been more possible. Yeah.
What do you think that means nowadays when you say like, it's time to be a man? Because I feel like as I've gone through my early 20s and then into my 30s, that message has become way more popular of what being a man means and way more confusing. Like, what is it? What do you think that means to you when you say that?
I would put it in life stages, not so much age, but more life stages. So I think the first part is you're staying on your own 2 feet. So you're searching for the path that makes you happy. That is probably, again, not what you went to school for or what your parents did. That you have moved out of the house and you're supporting yourself. It doesn't mean that you're off making millions yet, but you're not now relying on mom and dad to pay for everything and support you through everything. That you're becoming independent along this journey of self-discovery as well as your career path. But you're becoming an independent person in every sense, in the financial sense, in the self-esteem sense. Like, you don't need your parents or people around you to say, "Good job, Josh. That was really awesome." And like, that's how you get your validation, right? And it's often doing something completely different that they may not agree with. And it's you not holding yourself back from that opportunity, even if they don't understand it. You're not living your life to please the people around you anymore, right? I think that's how you transition. And even, I know the audience here is male, but also becoming a woman. Like, how do you become this is becoming an adult. This is adulting right now, right? Like, you're living your life. Once you get married, I had a transition, once I got married, then I'm not only, looking after my wife, but it's a whole other experience. It's like not only caring for one person, but you're caring for two. I worry about, even though she's self-sustaining and she's fine on her own and she doesn't need me to do anything, I still worry about her. And I care about her happiness. And I want her to not just have a great life, but if she's had a bad day, it impacts me. If she's not happy with something, it impacts me. And so caring for another human being as much or maybe even more than yourself was a major shift. And then the third was when I had a son. He's at school right now, and it's like he's doing some big drama production, and he's coming home late, and like, I hope he gets home okay, even though he's 14 and he'll be fine. I still worry about it. And so it's just extra layers of responsibility. And I think people, man, if you can't even look after yourself, good luck getting into a relationship and having kids, right? Is why there's a lot of broken relationships and broken parents and broken homes, because the people haven't even figured out themselves, let alone caring for other people. So for this audience, it's more younger. I don't know if anybody's married yet or has kids yet, or they're just kind of making that transition. But step number one is being independent, that you can stand on your own, both financially. Doesn't mean you're making a lot. Like, move out of your house, your parents' house, and rent an apartment with 4, people. Like, just, you're independent. You're figuring out your path. And then also just the emotional, that you are doing your thing and you don't need anybody else's support, validation, permission to go and live your life.
Totally, man. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much. That's an incredible place to finish. Appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Dude, that was dope. Thanks, man.
There you go.
You're really freaking good at that. That's like a lot of gold in just a couple of minutes.